I promise you that I will not let you down. We will do a great job.
The political outsider, billionaire businessman, reality TV star completes a slashing and populist campaign by promising to heal and unite America.
It is time for us to come together as one united people.
Trump winning in an unprecedented victory over Hillary Clinton. Her campaign defiant to the end.
We can wait a little longer, can't we? And she is not done yet.
But Hillary Clinton conceding early this morning in a phone call to Donald Trump. Her supporters emotional. The world reacting overnight. Stock markets tumbling.
Trump taking the stage with his own message of unity.
While the campaign is over, our work on this movement is now really just beginning.
Our powerhouse political team is here on the day after, breaking down this historic surprise, answering the question, where do we go from here?
I love this country. Thank you. Thank you very much.
A special edition of Good Morning America starts now.
Live in Times Square, this is a special edition of GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Good morning, America. What a night, what a campaign. The experts said he couldn't do it. His critics said he wasn't qualified. But Donald J. Trump proved them all wrong, pulling off the most stunning upset in political history. He wakes up this morning the next president of the United States.
All of America waking up to this political shocker. And there he was last night, well, actually just a few hours ago, Donald Trump surrounded by his family, taking the stage to address his many supporters after that concession call from Hillary Clinton.
And another moment from last night, Donald Trump took a little time to help his son Barron with his tie. And Robin, you were there at the Clinton headquarters last night. So many shocked and sad faces, just a surreal moment and stunning night.
Utter disbelief. Many were making reference to the glass ceiling there at the Javits Center, thought it would be shattered. Not to be.
They just didn't believe it was possible. A loss was coming right up into the middle of that night. But let's take a look at the numbers right now. Donald J. Trump topping 270 electoral votes. There are still several states out there. He has 278 right now. Right now, Hillary Clinton ahead in the popular vote. She actually has about 45,000 more votes than Donald Trump right now. About 9% of the vote left to be counted. Take a look at the White House at this hour. No public statement yet from President Obama or Hillary Clinton. We expect to hear from them today. But Donald Trump just sent his first tweet as president-elect. Such a beautiful and important evening, he wrote. The forgotten man and woman will never be forgotten again. We will all come together as never before.
And we'll hear from Donald Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway. George will talk to her in a moment. And our powerhouse team is still here after staying up all night long. I don't even think they've been to bed. We will have full coverage here in the studio and in key locations all across the country and world. Let's start with ABC's Tom Yamas, who has been with Trump's campaign since day one. Good morning, Tom.
Robin, good morning to you. Donald Trump called this. He predicted an election night shocker, and he was 100% right. Despite nearly all national polls showing him behind before the voting started, Donald Trump is now President-elect Trump.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Overnight, President-elect Donald Trump striking a conciliatory tone in his victory speech.
I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory. And I congratulated her and her family on a very, very hard-fought campaign. We owe her a major debt of gratitude for her service to our country.
With his family nearby, Trump telling the standing room only crowd he hopes to unite all Americans.
I say it is time for us to come together as one united people. I pledge to every citizen of our land that I will be president for all Americans, and this is so important to me.
It was almost 18 months ago. Donald Trump, a businessman and celebrity with no political experience, announcing his candidacy in true Trump fashion.
I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
Trump entered the Republican primaries facing off against 16 other Republican opponents, the largest field in history.
You are the single biggest liar. You probably are worse than Jeb Bush.
Despite the criticism Trump received on the campaign trail for his rhetoric and proposals,
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
he still pulled in massive crowds, one by one, knocking off his Republican rivals to become the party's nominee.
I humbly and gratefully accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States.
Vowing to make America great again with his tough stance on law and order.
The attacks on our police and the terrorism of our cities threaten our very way of life.
And immigration.
We are going to build a great border wall to stop illegal immigration.
He squared off against Hillary Clinton in 3 debates.
He's unfit, and he proves it every time
You
he
are the
talks.
one that's unfit. The problem is you talk, but you don't get anything done, Hillary.
But when it came down to it, when America voted, he clinched victory.
The next president of the United States, Donald Trump. Thank you. It's been an honor.
And this morning, a sign we have entered a new era in this country, Twitter, Donald Trump's preferred form of communication, with a new title. You see it there, Donald J. Trump, President-elect of the United States. Now, guys, eventually Donald Trump will take over the POTUS Twitter account, President of the United States. And guys, so many of us were surprised and shocked, but the clues were right in front of us. And here's one example, George. The President of the United States, 11.4 million Twitter followers. Donald Trump, 13.5 million. More popular than the president, you can argue, George.
13 million. Okay, Tom Yamas, thanks very much. Amy Robach here as well. You were at that New York Hilton last night, the Trump headquarters. Completely opposite experience from what Robin had. Night started out, they seemed uncertain, a little bit shaky, and then their mood rose all through the night.
It was quite an arc, to say the least, George. When we first walked in, it was somber almost there at the Hilton. Definitely a subdued election party headquarters, and the group was small. The media outnumbered the invited guests for a large part of the early part of the night, and they were definitely not in a celebratory mood. And then the results started coming in. You saw more people starting to gather, and then the crowd took a 180-degree turn. I took this video, chanting, cheering, singing. They were drinking and booing Hillary Clinton throughout the night, at different points chanting, "Lock her up." And just before 3 in the morning, when the election was finally called, the crowd went wild. Standing room only. But when Trump came out, I have to say there was another tonal shift when he thanked Hillary Clinton for her service and a hard-fought fight, and his crowd of supporters completely turning around and giving her a round of applause.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because when we saw John Podesta come out to the Clinton gathering and say they weren't going to say anything tonight, they're chanting "Lock her up."
They were booing and "Lock her up." It was an angry response, and it was deafening. And then to see them turn around and applaud for her when Trump thanked her, it was quite remarkable.
Amazing stuff right there. Okay.
It was an arc of a different sort where I was. As we mentioned, you could feel the mood dramatically changing as results started pouring in. ABC Cecilia Vega was also there, and she's been covering Hillary's campaign every step of the way, and she joins us now from the Peninsula Hotel where Clinton is resting after a very long night. Good morning, Cecilia.
Robin, good morning to you. Yeah, I'm not sure how much rest Hillary Clinton actually got inside this hotel room here behind me last night. You and I were in that room at different times, and by the time I got there, I think it was a completely different scene. I saw supporters crying. They were leaving early. Staffers were hugging each other. To say that this campaign is shocked this morning would be the understatement of this election cycle. Hillary Clinton is expected to give remarks later this morning at some point. We don't have details on that. We're all waiting to find out exactly when that will happen. Her team has largely been silent so far, which I think speaks to where their mindset is right now. They're still trying to process exactly what it is that happened. Her campaign chairman, as George mentioned, did address supporters at the Javits Center overnight. Take a listen to what he had to say.
They're still counting votes, and every vote should count. Several states are too close to call, so we're not going to have anything more to say tonight. So listen to me. Everybody should head home. You should get some sleep. We'll have more to say tomorrow.
So a very defiant tone at that point in the night from the Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta. And then just 40 minutes later, you guys, Hillary Clinton, we're told, calls Donald Trump. He talks about it when he's on stage there for this concession phone call. Outside of a tweet that Hillary Clinton had sent early in the night, we hadn't heard anything from her, and it ended up being sort of a cryptic tweet that foreshadowed thanking her supporters for a long, hard fight. And we are now, again, waiting for Hillary Clinton to come out to say again that they are stunned. This is a campaign that went in thinking they had this in the bag yesterday, Robin, and now just complete shock.
And many are anxious to hear what she will say later this morning. All right, Cecilia, thank you. George?
Thanks, Robin. And we are joined now by Donald Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne, thank you for joining us this morning. How does it feel to manage the biggest upset in history?
It feels absolutely euphoric, George, and this really was a campaign for the people, and they have spoken. They want to go in a new and different direction. They want different leadership, and Mr. Trump and Governor Pence did a fabulous job taking their case directly to the people. We faced an avalanche of criticism, naysayers, every single day, and I'm just so proud that the people overcame that. This is really a victory for them.
Take us inside Trump Tower last night. Describe the moment that Donald Trump knew he would be the 45th president of the United States.
Well, he admitted it later than some of the other of those of us in the senior staff. I mean, I think it was when it was clear that we were able to protect our core four: Ohio, Iowa, Florida, and North Carolina, those 4 states. And then we always intended to add to those, maybe with a Michigan or a Pennsylvania, Nevada plus New Hampshire. So we were able to do it with a combination of states. We're really happy. The state of Pennsylvania was always my heart state since I took over as campaign manager, our reach state, if you will. And for the first time in almost 30 years, it went Republican at the presidential level. So that helped put us over the top. And I think it was when Mr. Trump got to about 254 electoral votes, we started to make our way to the hotel. And we planned to go there, George, and do what we had been doing all night, which is just watch the returns on your network and others, and just wait to see how the states went and who would win. We had some indication that some of the prognosticators were changing their predictions and going the way of Trump-Pence. But when we arrived, I received a call from Huma Abedin. I handed the phone to Mr. Trump, and he spoke to Secretary Clinton. They had a very gracious exchange.
Can you tell us more about it?
Well, I heard the Donald Trump side of it because I was standing next to him, but as I understand it, Secretary Clinton commended Donald Trump on a hard-fought race and congratulated him for his victory. And he told Secretary Clinton she's very smart, very tough, had waged a tremendous campaign. He respects her and her family. It was a very pleasant exchange. And then Mr. Trump spoke to President Obama later on. We look very much forward to Mr. Trump and President Obama, Secretary Clinton, and many, many other leaders in this country to coming together to help unify and heal the country.
Yeah, that was the core message of his speech last night, saying we have to bind the wounds of the nation. So what is Donald Trump going to do that as president?
Well, you heard him last night, George, say that he's going to be the president of all Americans, and that would include those who do not support him for president, those who don't want him to be the president. And that's a really great way to start one's presidency, is to let everyone know that everyone will be treated the same. He's been very specific about some of the things he would do. He told last night, he said, I would like to tell the world community, I will always put America first, but I also will treat everyone fairly around the globe. And he looks forward to making good on some of his promises in short order. He'll go to Washington with a Republican House and a Republican Senate. So he'll have the ability to implement some of these changes in his 100-day plan that he's been talking about.
He also spoke many times during the campaign, including in the debates, about appointing a special prosecutor to pursue Hillary Clinton. Is he still going to do that?
We have not discussed that at all, and he certainly didn't discuss it on his brief phone call with Mrs. Clinton.
And he'll have a choice, an open seat, no doubt, now for the Supreme Court. Does he have a short list?
Yes, it does. We do. And Mr. Trump has been very public about who is on that list. He's also committed to elevating somebody who's already on that list as his Supreme Court justice. But I think what's really important is that he's given a job description as to what he feels a Supreme Court justice should be and should do. It should be somebody who adheres very closely to the Constitution, doesn't make up the law as they go along, doesn't have a political agenda. So the 19 or so men and women that he's put forth certainly fit that description. And we look forward to filling that Supreme Court vacancy, and probably some experts expect maybe 1 or 2 others during his first term.
Final question, was this victory even more sweeping than you dreamed of?
It is, George, because it's real. I mean, we saw it coming for a few weeks. I know I've talked on air on ABC and elsewhere that we just modeled the electorate differently and saw some things a little bit differently. It's really sweet because I've been to these rallies with Mr. Trump, and you can't help but be moved by the people who stand in line for 4 or 5 hours just to be there, to show their support, and to share his vision and his values for the future. So I'm really happy that they got their wish yesterday.
Kellyanne Conway, thanks very much. Big job ahead.
Thank you.
All right, George, thank you. And we just learned that President Obama has invited Donald Trump for a meeting tomorrow at the White House. And take a look at the headlines here in New York, Donald Trump's hometown. They show what a stunning victory this was. And we're going to bring in ABC's John Carl. There you see the headlines right now. We're going to bring in John Carl for a look at what happened. And John, you're there at the board again. Take us state by state, the breakdown.
I mean, what happened here, Robin, is that Donald Trump won in all the states he needed to win, and then he won in states that virtually nobody thought he had a chance of winning. So first, he won in Florida. He won in North Carolina. And take a look at Ohio. Not only did he win in Ohio, he won a victory in Ohio of 8 points. It was basically a landslide victory for Donald Trump in the state of Ohio. But the real story, and the reason why Donald Trump is the president-elect of the United States, is what happened in the industrial Midwest. Look at this. He won in the state of Pennsylvania, a state that hasn't gone Republican since 1988. He won in the state of Wisconsin, a state that hasn't gone Republican since 1984. And although we haven't called Michigan yet, with 95% of precincts reporting, he has a lead in the state of Michigan. An absolute rout in these states that really few people thought he had a chance to win.
Few people thought he had a chance to win. We saw one commentator, Van Jones, called this a white lash. We really saw white working class voters, especially in the places you just saw, come out in droves.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at those demographics. The biggest single factor in Donald Trump's victory here was white voters, as you mentioned, George, but especially white voters without a college degree. Look at this. He absolute landslide among those voters. And here, when you look further at the non-white vote, some very interesting things. Okay, not surprisingly, he got killed among African-American voters, getting only 8%. Hispanic voters, he got 29%. Asian-American voters, he got 29%. But consider this. For each of those three groups, African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, he outperformed Mitt Romney. Donald Trump did better than Mitt Romney among non-white voters.
That is really the key right there, and the consequence is profound because right now Republicans control the White House, the House, and the Senate. They're going to get a pick on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so let's take a look at where that all breaks down. We have, first of all, in the Senate, they've got 51 seats right now, and there is still the outstanding Senate race in the state of New Hampshire. They could pick up another. That's much better than anybody expected. In the House, they still have a commanding majority in the House, 230 and counting. And George, he could have up to 3 Supreme Court picks as President of the United States.
Sweeping election victory for Donald Trump.
And we will have more on the election coming up. We're going to hear from our powerhouse team that's here with us in the studio. But first, let's go to Ginger with the weather.
And it is a mild Times Square this morning. Mood and weather, 56 degrees, the temperature, and that is an average high. So look at this. With the warmth comes drought and comes fire. The video there from Georgia. Parts of western North Carolina haven't seen rain in more than 75 days. The warmth is going to stick. Seattle was 70 yesterday. Let's get to the warm cities now, brought to you by CarMax.
Sell your car. CarMax will give you 7 days to consider their offer. Why 7 days? Science. Join me as we walk through the 7 stages of decisioning.
1. Consideration. 2. Questioning. 3. Deciding. 4. Queso. 5. Nap. 6. Sudoku. 7. Tambourine practice.
I think I made my point. They'll give you an offer for your car. You take 7 days to think about it.
We'll have the rain gear ready to go today, especially through the early morning rush. 60 degrees, the high temperature for today. We go from steady rain to some occasional showers, and it will be breezy late. There could be a little bit of sunshine coming our way. Rain chances won't end until after about 8 o'clock this evening. The high Thursday and Friday, 62. That is, of course, Veterans Day on Friday, and a cold, windy start to the weekend with wind chill temperatures in the low 30s. So feeling like we're around freezing. Coming up, much more on how Donald Trump's victory happened. We'll talk about that and how he can move on.